For decades, the age of the typical first-time homebuyer hovered in the early 30s. But according to the latest NAR data, that median age has just hit 40, an all-time high, while their share of the total market has dropped to just 21%. Getting the keys is no longer the end of the struggle. This pie chart represents recent purchasers, and it shows that 82% of them now report experiencing significant buyer's remorse. If residential real estate remains a primary tool for building long-term wealth, why does the current market feel like a financial trap for those entering it? The reality is that the standard approach to buying a home often ignores the mathematical friction of 2026. To navigate this, we have to look at the specific costs that aren't listed on a Zillow page. Most buyers focus on what a mortgage lender says they can afford to borrow, but there is a gap between a loan approval and the actual monthly pressure of running a household. You encounter closing costs between 2 and 5%. Then, as this chart shows, the first-year setup, including moving, essential tools, and furnishings, adds another layer of immediate capital drain. It continues month to month. On top of the principal and interest, you are stacking property taxes, insurance, and often HOA fees. Without a dedicated maintenance reserve, these recurring costs can leave a household stretched thin. In many cases, the pressure is immediate. 35% of buyers face a major repair, averaging over $5,000 within months of closing, frequently because they felt forced to waive home inspections to stay competitive. A lender approves you based on your ability to handle a debt, not your ability to maintain an asset. When that distinction is ignored, the result is the high rate of remorse we're seeing across the country. While these pressures are real, the macro environment is starting to shift. Mortgage rates have leveled off in the 6% range, and active inventory is up 21% over the last year. Much of this change is being driven by the 21st Century Road to Housing Act, a legislative package designed to address the inventory shortage. One of the bill's primary functions is to limit large-scale institutional investors from purchasing single-family starter homes. By placing a barrier on corporate hoarding, the law intends to keep more of the existing supply available for individual families. The bill also includes the Build Now Act, which ties federal funding to local zoning reforms. This is accelerating the production of townhomes and duplexes, particularly in suburban areas where land is more accessible. This increase in suburban supply is meeting a shift in where people choose to live. With half the workforce using remote or hybrid models, buyers are leaving urban cores for more space and lower prices. For the first time in years, new construction and lower corporate competition are returning a measure of leverage to the individual buyer. Leveraging this new market requires looking past the 20% down payment standard. In 2026, many buyers are closing deals without using nearly that much of their own cash. There are currently over 2,600 down payment assistance programs operating nationwide. This map shows the density of these options, providing an average $18,000 benefit. This pairs with low down payment loans, conventional at 3%, FHA at 3.5%, and VA or USDA programs allowing 0% down. To avoid the traps mentioned earlier, successful buyers are now using a 1% rule, building an emergency fund equal to 1% of the home's value before they ever move in. This provides a buffer against the surprise repairs that hit over a third of new owners. The 2026 market is more technical than it was for previous generations. But as inventory rises and corporate competition cools, waiting for the perfect moment could result in a significant loss of equity growth over the next decade. Success today isn't about finding a cheap house. It's about managing the total cost of owning one.